time for another edition of Fast Break Bets. We're going to talk about Tuesday, April the 23rd, NBA playoff slate. Gino Bacola here, along with Erik from ETOF 21 Sports. 3 more games today, Erik. We're still looking for anybody to win on the road. We haven't had a road team win yet so far, but basically 2 games through for most of these series. So that's a lot of times that's kind of one of those old cliches, right? Like the series doesn't start till someone wins on the road.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. But, NBA is the NBA. I really think that we got some good games yesterday. The end of the Knicks game was crazy. I really feel it's funny to me how absolutely no one in the media is talking about how I have as many fourth quarter rebounds in the series as Joel Embiid.
He's just tired. You could see it.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, you're 7 feet tall and you can't get 1 rebound in 24 minutes of basketball.
And Lakers just can't. We saw the second game. They can't snap it. It's one of those things that's haunting them different ways. They got the D'Lo game last night. They just couldn't get Rui and some of the others to contribute. Like no other help from bench guys. And then like we said, when they're playing well and when they pay attention to detail, they're able to beat the Nuggets in those quarters and those stretches of the game. And it's like anything, when you get a little tired and you start to lose your focus and you take bad shots, that's when things start to flip. It's not taking anything away from Denver, because I keep saying it. What Denver does, it's more than what they do defensively. It's what they do offensively. They continue to put pressure on you because they're going to execute. And that's what's frustrating as a fan or as like a gambler when you're watching a team play against them, because you want to say, like, just stay disciplined. It's not as easy as that sounds, right? You get tired, the altitude comes in, but it's like you see it and it starts to snowball. It's like a bad pass, then a bad shot. Then all of a sudden things get stagnant. I was looking at stats that were showing that, like, when the Lakers run offensive sets, like just actually have an organized offense, they're probably the best team in the league based on like the numbers. When they go out there and they just play street ball, nobody is that good. Even when you have LeBron and AD, like you can't do that. You have to be organized, even with the best players. And that's, a thing when you look at good teams like this, when they play against each other and when the margin is one shot. We saw it in both games yesterday. A lot of times that does come down to coaching too. We saw in the Philly game, was there a timeout? Was there not? Where there was all that confusion. And then for the Lakers, I don't think yesterday was all that bad of a ham game. But what's funny, yesterday he probably waited too long to bring D'Lo back in the game and AD back in the game. He was trying to get a few extra minutes for them late, but those guys were the guys carrying the load yesterday. And if it were me, Erik, when AD picks up 4 fouls, I bring him back early, and just, if he fouls out of the game, he fouls out, right? Like, I just think his presence on the court was needed, and those 2 things kind of let Denver get into the flow there. But wow, two really good games. Anything else you want to mention about yesterday or like the first round through before we jump into today?
Best part for me yesterday is when Embiid hit Lowry, and Lowry was trying to flop, so he went flying into the front row. He thought a Knicks player hit him to try to draw something. I thought that was great. Dante DiVincenzo, not scared of the moment. I mean, everyone talks about being a superstar, but part of the thing when you're a superstar is you have to live with the consequences. Like, what happens if I don't miss this shot? What happens if I make the wrong play? He stepped into that, and he shot that ball with confidence. That really stood out to me. And the altitude got to AD. Like, his defense was pretty good in the first half, not the best in the second. I think he got a little tired out toward the end. And I mean, you're playing in altitude on short days rest. There's nothing you can really argue about that. Maybe I think they should have rested him more in the first half, so that way he could have played more in the second half. Because in my eyes, and I think I read a stat where he allowed like 16 fourth quarter points when he was the nearest defender. He was definitely tired, and his defensive level is a little bit not up to standard.
It's, I think what was hard is that you're just the load that you're asking him to carry right now. I mean, he was defending Jokic really well for both games, and that's you just need, like, you're looking at the way the Nuggets are, right? And they get that sort of contribution from Jokic. He doesn't really have to do it on the defensive end as much, but then they're getting a little bit more from Porter consistently, right? They're getting like
Porter's look good. Porter's been good all year.
Brown has a game
really
like Brown has a game that they need a guy like Vincent or Dinwiddie to have, where you get 10 points like that. Those are just the little things. And that's the difference when there's a 2-point game, that's the difference. And like, the getting up by 20 and that, like in this modern NBA, 20 is not as much anymore. And when you're playing a team like Denver at home, like that's going to happen. They're going to make their runs. So it more comes down to the little things here and there. And like little 4-point swings, 6-point swings, those things happen 2 or 3 times. That's the difference in a game. Erik, I was talking to you a little bit before the show about how I am in a brutal stretch. We have what's crazy about this as in gambling, what's hard. There's so many ways to lose, right? You can have, and there's like different ways to win, but you can have bad stretches where you're just not close. I kind of don't mind those bad stretches because we know they're all going to happen where we're like, I was just wrong. My opinion was just off. I'm going through one of the ones where I'm supposed to be winning more because I'm pretty close and I'm just missing. And those are the worst ones because you feel like as a gambler, we all have our percentage of times we're like, yep, that was our day or that's supposed to be our hit. And you got to capitalize on those enough, at your percentage of 20, 30% of the time, whatever it is to hit the big ones. And I had a crazy one last night. I was where I actually had a D-Lo adjusted threes up to 6 threes and he hit 7. So that was a part of a thing that I hit. I had a Gary Harris adjusted threes way up. You and I both like that one. And when the Lakers were up 20, the last thing I needed was the Lakers to win money line to close out like a really, really big score. It was so hard not to feel like, man, the world is against you when something like that happens after a struggle on Saturday for me with a few different races. We go through them, but there's so many different kinds of streaks as gamblers. That's what's hard. It's not like, oh, yep, this is just a bad. Like there are so many types of bad stretches or good stretches. And I'm in one of the most sickening ones right now because I'd rather be last than second by a nose or like just miss like that,
Yeah, that's always tough, when you're one leg away from doing stuff like that.
Because we know those of us who do this enough to have a level head and you shake it off and you got to get ready and you only have to be as, ready for your next one. You just go through certain points where it just feels relentless. And so for me, next few days, especially because I got the Kentucky Derby coming up next weekend, I got to get this bad taste out of my mouth a little bit. So I'm going to not play as much myself. I did lock in one play already right after the first round game, so I'll mention that one. But I'll do a little more hosting and set you up, and we'll see if I can just kind of clear some of the cobwebs myself and get back in a few days where I can feel a little bit not like the world is against me quite as much. Erik, 3 games on the slate tonight. I'd say one of the more surprising results of the first round, like the first wave of games, game 1 for all the series, was probably not that Minnesota won, but that Minnesota really kicked the crap out of the Suns in that first game. So are you looking for the Suns to bounce back? How are you playing this thing as far as the matchup? What are you looking to play tonight? Suns, T-Wolves. Minnesota's a 3-point favorite for game 2 at home.
The big piece for me was I really felt Fitch needed to make an adjustment pre-flop where the series started, and he did. His rotation completely changed. He made sure at min he had 2 defensive guys in the lineup to kind of protect against the drop coverage that Rudy Gobert does when they're in the pick and roll. So because of that, that led to more minutes for Alexander Walker. Because of that, I'm going to play his over points, rebounds, and assists at 12.5. He's just going to be out there more. And when he's out there more, obviously you get more opportunities. I do expect a little shooting regression from him, but he's at least going to get 4 attempts.
Opportunities. So
that's why I play the points, rebounds, and assists, just because he's the type of guy that needs to be out there against the Suns.
That's the thing I don't feel like enough people give the T-Wolves credit for the wings they have that they can throw at you. That's a real key to their defense, having been the best defense in the league all throughout the year, Erik. Just it's nice the versatility they have. That's what helps them with the Cat, Gobert, and the two bigs, and even Nas, because they have a bunch of different looks they can throw at you. If they want to go smaller, if they want to go really big, if they want to go with a few of those wings out there and like a super athletic lineup, they can throw different things at you, which that's nice to have in these playoff series where you got to be able to make an adjustment and be able to counter the punch someone else throws.
And I mean, props to Finch. Usually you don't want to be the first coach to adjust, but he adjusted right out of the get-go. He really sensed how important it was for them to get game one.
It was a pre-adjustment. Yeah, you're right. It feels different when you do that because it just feels smarter. Like, hey, you know what? We know what let's just get ahead of the game instead of losing a game or two and feeling like we're on our heels and feeling like there's pressure on us. And that's why we had to make the adjustment, because we lost, not because it was even what was best for us. So let's just do what we think is going to win us the game, not necessarily just lean on what people would think we're going to lean on. And that was very smart. I think you have another play in this game, right?
Yeah. And then I did, they're at under 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Look, he's gone under 21 to 34 games with this with Beal, Booker, and KD. I really don't expect him to play more than 30 minutes just because there needs to be some adjustments being made. Suns tried to go small with KD at the 5. That lineup got blown out. So I really feel the adjustment they're going to make is Royce O'Neal. I think we're going to see more Royce O'Neal minutes because of everything that he can do on the court.
He just gets open looks, open threes, rebounds.
I don't think he's going to get anywhere near 30 minutes. Only had 12 rebounding chances, and for a center, that's insanely limited when you played 39 minutes last game. So I think we're going to see less of his minutes. So I played the under 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it doesn't work trying to size up against them, then you got to try to zig when they're zagging. You got to just go in a different direction. You got to go smaller and quicker, because that's where it'll impact them more, and see if you can get some separation, and maybe your advantage can be from the three-point line there. 2 plays for Erik in game 1 of the 3 games tonight. Erik, your Milwaukee Bucks host the Pacers in game 2. The Bucks were very impressive in game 1, in particular, Damian Lillard. Milwaukee is a 1-point favorite here. What this is doing is, for Milwaukee, every game you win, it's sort of like it buys you another game for Giannis, right? It almost kind of feels that way.
That's kind of big. You got to be able to buy. And if they can get the series done quickly, that's what they want to do. Mm-hmm. A couple things stood out to me is Pacers guys were getting open looks. They weren't making the threes. The defensive effort they did at Halliburton, who only had, I believe, 7 or 9 shots, they really limited him, shut him down, took the ball out of his hands. And how they were just letting Dame get to the left side of the court with ease. All the Dame action was always to the left side of the court. There was no action that forced him to the right side. So that's my first thing. I think they're going to force Dame to go to his right more, force him on that side of the court, limit that action. So I'm going to play him under 29.5. I think they're going to blitz him more. I think they're going to force the ball out of Dame's hands. And this is going to force other guys to beat him. So I'm going to play under 29.5 points for Dame Lillard. And then my next play in it is I'm going Siakam under 25.5 points. Coming off a 36-point effort last game. Looking at him for the year, he's only gone over this total 20 times this season. I expect Carlisle is going to have a very focused effort to get Halliburton the ball, get him going on early off. And if he's taking shots, that's going to take away from Siakam. I think the Bucks are going to look to obviously limit kind of Siakam coming off what he did and be content with those other guys taking threes. So I'm going to play Siakam under 25.5 points as well.
2 plays for Erik, hoping for the Bucks to go up 2-0. Good luck for your squad tonight. Good luck for your plays tonight, Erik. Now let's move to the 3rd game of our 3-game slate tonight. Mavericks at the Clippers. Clippers just beat the absolute crap out of Dallas. It was shell shocking. And you know what? The Clippers were hitting threes. That was one thing. But Dallas just wasn't ready to play. Like, their energy level was not there. I was really the one particular thing in watching the game that really surprised me, Eric, was the Zubac Gafford matchup, because the bigs for Dallas had been so good post All-Star break since they traded, and they were helping this team have such a better defensive rating and just being a better defensive team overall. You watch a game like that, it's like Zoo was just having his way, getting to his spot. Like, what I couldn't help but think about, like the series that we're watching with Anthony Davis and LeBron and Jokic going at each other, and those two guys just playing incredible. Like, watching Dallas in a game like that going, if they can't stop Zubac, what would they do if they have to deal with Jokic, your two-time MVP, or a guy like AD who's been rolling right now, or like someone who's got a big – that was the one thing that really surprised me in that matchup. What kind of stood out to you from game one? And it looks like, from what I was seeing today, Kawhi was at shoot-around.
Yeah, Kawhi was at shoot-around. Don't know if he's going to go. The thing that stood out to me was is panic. Kid panicked. When you look at what he did, Lively, 15 minutes. Gafford, 15 minutes. Jones, 10 minutes. As soon as those guys didn't hit a couple shots, he
took them out.
Took them out. To me, the one guy in the Mavericks that looked locked in on both sides of the court was Kyrie.
100%.
He was the one guy during that game that seemed locked in, ready.
Luka was whining and bitching too. He was off, and I got to give him credit too, man. And that's the thing. Like, I've never been the biggest Kyrie fan. I did not want the Lakers to make a trade for him. And I don't think it would have really worked for them because you end up giving up too much. But the way that they were able to fill around Dallas after the All-Star break, this team was very good. And Kyrie was definitely the best player on the floor. And we forget sometimes that this guy's been in really big games and really big moments. And he's sort of a different type of guy, mentally, and positive, negative if you agree with him. But I just never feel like he's someone who's bothered by pressure. The way that he's made up, like
he can live with the consequences.
Being in a big moment in a basketball game is like, to him, some guys, that's just not as big of a deal. They stay low and they don't get too high. They're not like me, whining and complaining about their losing streak right off the beginning of our show, right? They're able to be more even-keeled on the court. Kyrie does that, which is funny because off the court, he's so different, or he's been so different, where he's been so kind of up and down. But when he's on the court, this year in particular, he's been really trustworthy.
So I really feel why we've seen an uptick with Kyrie is just the level of organization that
you mentioned this before, right? With Cuban?
When Ramadan was going on, you know what the Nets did to Kyrie? They just gave him bananas. What did Cuban do? And the Mavericks organization, and the guy's a vegan, they brought in during Ramadan, they brought in a personal chef to take care of Kyrie. You know what I mean? So they're going above and beyond for him to make him comfortable. And now look, does he say some crazy stuff? Does he say some wild stuff? Yeah. But we need to remember, when you're 13 years old and you tell your mom, I love you, then you go to bed and you wake up the next day and she died when you were sleeping. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna affect you the rest of your life. So look, I think the Mavericks are just a world-class organization. I just kind of feel when you look at their roster, you mentioned post All-Star game, teams that made the playoffs after the All-Star game, they were only 1-8 against. So they did have a good record, but that was kind of inflated because they beat up the bottom tier. Now, when I look at this, I feel they have a huge coaching advantage. You have Ty Lue, master creating matchup. Jason Kidd completely panicked last game, took out Gafford, took out Lively, took out Jones, and put in number 42, whose names I'm spacing on, who's the three-point shooter. Now, what the Clippers want you to do is the Clippers want you to go small. If you go small against the Clippers, they're fine with that because they have George, Powell. They can play those guys that can kind of switch every position. They want you to go small. So I really don't know what adjustment that Dallas can make. Kyrie looks like he's going to be playing.
Luka
exposed Gafford. Yeah.
Did you see that that one play where it was Kleber, right? The guy, that's who they put in.
remember that guy.
And Luca's just yelling at him after he passed him the ball and he sort of dropped it out of bounds. And that was just the perfect meme for that game. Luca screaming at Kleber, who shouldn't even have been on the court.
Yeah, it's just, I really feel that the Mavericks don't have enough weapons.
It's funny
the
too,
Clippers, Paul George had the quietest 20 points I've ever seen in my life.
I know it was a really strong game.
Quiet 20. I think they're going to continue to make Luka uncomfortable. I think that they're just going to be able to get to the hole. I know James Harden went off, and I know he's going to be due for some shooting regression. But you have Paul George, you have Norm Powell didn't play good. They just have way too many dogs that can get you.
It's weird that this year, like on this particular team too, there's a little bit less pressure on Harden because of some of the other guys that are on the team with him that have also struggled. It's kind of weird, right? Like Paul George has his playoff demons. So does Westbrook. You don't think about the Clippers and think like, well, you need Harden to do this. And I think when there's less pressure on you, it's a little easier to get your shot off. It's not like last year with Philly when it's like Harden and Embiid are there together. You need those two guys to be your 1-2 every game. If Harden's not playing well, you're not winning. And the games that he does play well, they would win. It's a little different with this particular group. But I agree with you. I think my one play that I locked in there today was just the Harden under. I went under 17.5 just based on, the fact that he had 6 threes, in order to get to his 28 points last time out. And he shot 11 threes. And now if Kawhi is back in the mix, that's just going to be less shots for him. He plays more of a point when Kawhi comes back, and Kawhi gets a little more of those isolation, and you'll have Harden just kind of ball in his hands a little bit less then. So that was my only play that I had already locked in. But you go back to the Clippers again, right? We liked them game 1, and you're going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to them game 2, and then on the Mavericks side, I did PJ Washington over 5.5 rebounds, 12 rebound chances in general. And I really feel we're going to see that number tick up just because I expect limited time from Gafford, limited time from, Lively. So I expect more opportunity from Washington. Because I think they are going to eventually go small. I think that's going to be the big adjustment Kidd makes, and that's going to play right into the hands of what the Clippers want to do. Went over 4 or 5 to end the season, had 7 last game. In the 22 games with the Mavericks, he's gone over this 11 times. So I'll play PJ Washington over 5.5 rebounds.
Erik, anything else you want to mention about parlay play? Which of the props were you locking in today? Remember, folks, if you're looking for some action and you're watching these NBA games and playing along like we are, you got to go to parlayplay.io. You have to check this out. You can parlay props. You can play a bunch of different sports. Every player they'll have many options for ways you can play them, ranges, points, rebounds, assists, threes made, all sorts of different options, Erik. It's a ton of fun. And for a lot of people, if you can't wager legally in certain states yet, this is a great way to get some of the action. And, if you're someone who handicaps and gambles these games, you can look at the props that we're talking about and play them in here and parlay them together and win some cash. So talk to us about how you are playing parlay play props today. And remember, everyone, NFL Betting Blitz. I'll throw the promo code up on the screen right now. What's up for you today?
I basically just, my whole model is, go big or go home. I basically just did every single parlay, every single one that
you mentioned so you got like a $5, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I got a $5.
Nice.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm behind the 8 ball. I'm pulling it up right now.
No problem.
So there is no points assists for Washington. So I did him over 6.5 points. I did Nurkic under 23.5 points, rebounds, assists. Siakam under 24.5, Dame under 28.5, and PJ Washington over 5.5 rebounds.
Erik, buddy.
So
good luck. The schedule the next few days for everyone watching, it might be a little bit different, or we might have days where like Erik is doing a show, or maybe I'm doing a show alone, just because Erik's going to be heading to the NFL draft, which is going to be awesome. So we'll get some things out there. Maybe we have a day or two where it's one of us, or maybe a guest, or we'll figure things out. But man, I'm excited for you to head on out there to cover that. You did that last year, right? As well.
Yep. Yep. I was there last year doing the same thing this year. If you guys see me, come out and say hi. I'll buy you one of those $12 beers at the draft.
And it'll be in Detroit, right?
Yep, in Detroit, right by the river, right downtown. It's going to be a great venue. Really looking forward to it. It's always good because how you think the draft is on TV and how it really is there, it's completely different. Like when you see the TV, they'll be on pick 5, but they're in person. They're actually on pick 10.
Oh,
it
nice.
goes like so much faster and everything, but it's a great experience. Anyone in Michigan should definitely go check it out, and it's free. You can be there. It's free. I met Eddie George last year, James Lofton last year.
Awesome.
And everyone's so personable, and everyone's right there. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Man, cool. And we'll be listening to you later on tonight. Those of you who are watching and listening to this on Tuesday, Erik has a show later tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern time, where you're going to go through the draft, right, with one of your guests?
Yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. We're going to be doing a mock draft. We're going to be alternating picks, so I really have no idea
who you're going to pick.
He has no idea. Yeah, he has no idea. So and the draft's always tough because we all have set stuff, what we think of a player and what the team thinks of the player. So we have to kind of guess what the team thinks in order to pick them. So I'm really looking forward to tonight, and then looking forward to the rest of the time.
Awesome, buddy.
And then they just announced no Giannis tonight, but I think we all knew that.
Yeah, that's. I think it's nice because if you win again, then heck, maybe you go and try in game 3 to snipe one without him. You know what I mean?
If they win again, there's literally no point if they win.
And playing him until you lose.
Playing him, I'd probably say till game 5.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it got to a game 5 and you lost, but if you were able to just keep going until you lose a game first, right? They lose tonight, then the conversation starts being like, okay, what is he like physically really? Because now it's 1-1. We don't want to get ourselves behind like happened last year against Miami. You put yourself in a bad situation because you had no margin for error, right? Like we said, Indiana's still capable offensively of just having a great shooting night. You don't want that to happen. Like
game 5 is a week from the day.
Yeah, that would be great.
So that's why I'm saying if they
win
more tonight,
yeah,
you go into Indiana, you don't rush him, you don't have him play, you let him get more healthy, because the worst thing that can happen is he goes out there and he tears his Achilles.
Because it's you're not trying to win. You're not a young team who just made the playoffs who's hoping to just win a series. You have bigger plans.
You're in there to try to win it.
It's not, and if you can't win it all, what's the point of winning a series? Bringing him back, it just doesn't make sense. So you try to get away with the wins as long as you can.
Yeah, wait to game 5 and then see what you can do. There's no point in rushing them back. And this is the thing. Even though the Knicks are up 2-0, I think that series is at least going to go 6 games. So if they can get out and they can get like a 4-1 win here, and you rest them even longer, oh my God, that would be a perfect scenario for them. But, they need to win today. And also there's a stat, like if you go up 2-0 in a playoff series, a first round playoff series, you win 95% of the time. There's only been 8 occurrences in the last 20 years when a team went down 0-2 and then came back to win a playoff series. So this is a big game tonight for the Bucks to try to go up 2-0. Timberwolves try to go up 2-0, and the Mavericks obviously try to avoid to go down 0-2, because a lot of people had the Mavericks as a dark horse team that could make a run.
Good luck. Have a blast at the draft this weekend. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us here on Fast Break Bets, and we'll see you again real soon.